Hi guys, this is a really late live in the US. It's a very early live in Europe, but I still wanted to come on because I have promised that I will do chart readings. And I've had people in my group post their Gene Key chart and their human design chart, and I've done it by profile. So when it comes to Gene Keys and to human design, we have what we call profile, and there are 12 different profiles. And we could say these are our personality. And you could think about, for example, the Enneagram. That's a way of speaking about personality. You could think about the life path number in numerology. That's another way. Or, for example, Myers-Briggs. It's another way of speaking about it. So in Gene Keys and human design, we have a personality that is made up of two numbers. And those numbers can be from 1 to 6. And what we are going to see on Monday nights for the next few months is actually how these two numbers, that is from 1 to 6, that you're going to have two different numbers, how they together are making up who you are. And the first number is going to be a lot about your personality, a lot about the role that you are here to play in the world, we could say. It's basically your astrology personality that's speaking about. And then the special thing with Gene Keys and human design is that they add a second number that is more of a soul number. It's more of something that wants to be expressed through you. So it's very interesting when we thread these profiles, because some people are going to have in the personality what other peoples are going to have in their soul. So I'm looking forward to this, and I am actually starting from the end this time. So the 12 profiles are starting with a 1-3, and then I'm going through all the numbers, and they are finishing with a 6-3. So usually the 6-3 is what comes at the end. But I've thought that it's interesting to kind of go from the end to the beginning. And the 6-3 is a role model. It's somebody who is here to have three distinct phases of life, to start out in trial and error. And the first 30 years, or the first Saturn return, it's about really just playing with energy and experiences and kind of going up that ladder and falling down and having interactions and understanding what works and what doesn't work. And what happens with the 6 line is that after those 30 years, it's kind of not built for being that, for having a life that is so tumultuous. So it's going to kind of feel like a kitten that you put in a tumble dryer, and you let it do like this for 30 years, and it's going to come out and it's going to be like, life can't be like this. This is not what I'm here for. And then it's going to go up on the roof, and it's going to, hopefully be able to be more discerning. Okay, what are the friends that I need to have? What are the projects that I need to go into? And kind of start choosing with more discernment. There, in some cases, they are actually going to be afraid of living life. So they're going to kind of stay up on the roof and be judgmental of others and not understand where people have to be this or that. So they kind of disincarnate. They become judges instead of actually living life. So that is, if you want, like the kind of backside, or the negative side of being having a 6 in your personality. And the last part, so that's for 20 years. So 0 to 30, it's about trial and error. 30 to 50 is about discernment and understanding kind of what went wrong and how to do it better. And then from 50 forward, it's about coming down really from the roof and become an example for others. And really by your own life, you show how to walk, life, and you can inspire others. The 6 is not going to be a traditional leader. It's not going to want to lead anybody. It actually just wants to live its life in integrity, you could say, with the values that it has developed through life. And what more to say about the 6? The 6 is a lot about truth, values, about also innocence, because although the 6 has had all these experiences in their life, it's actually about still be able to feel that innocence, to not let go of the dream, to still have the vision. And what the 6s are needing is other people around them that can see in that direction, that can also see the dream, what's coming, the future. And if the 6 doesn't have that kind of of environment or the people around it, it can start to either judge others, or it could also resign and say, okay, I'm just going to settle. And the world is probably not going to look like I know that it can look. We are probably not going to evolve. It's going to be when I'm already dead. And then it has this life of resignation and compromise. So that would also be the bad side of it. But in the positive, it would remain a visionary. It will remain innocent, although it has fallen so many times. And it's going to have this, it's going to be able to see life kind of from the sixth chakra, or the third eye, of really being able to see the big perspective and not getting bogged down in the details and in the fear and in the kind of competition of a lot of other people. So that is the sixth line. So that's the first line of the type we are going to speak about today. And the second one, the one that's more in this case in the soul, is going to be the third line. And the third line, we have basically already spoken about it, because it's the first 30 years of the sixth line. So it's all about trial and error. It's all about interaction. The difference is that the third line is built for that. So if you have this combination, it's actually going to have kind of a double flavor. And imagine that for the first 30 years, it's going to be all about trial and error. So if you are a parent to a 6-3, for example, you are going to see that child kind of choose the wrong friends and like break their legs and whatever you can think of. It's going to be chaotic. It can be difficult, but to know that there's something with it. This is the life path. It's learning through kind of burning yourself. If we are speaking about elements and chakras, the third line is the third chakra and it's the element of fire. So it is that thing about playing with fire. And this personality aspect, when you have the combination, the third line is actually robust. So it's somebody who can continue not only for 30 years, but for their whole life to be in playfulness, to be in trial and error. And the negative side of the third line is that it can want to run away from the failure, because other people might put shame on it. Other people might say, you're always a failure. You're such a shame for the family, for example. And then the third line has to kind of start to lie, or start to escape, or start to kind of find a way to seek approval and attention, because it's like the life is a failure. But if you're becoming a clown or actor or something, or you can do, who knows, like those extreme sports, so that you in some way you get attention for your risk taking, for your trial and error. And the third line, it's thriving when it doesn't have pressure, when it doesn't have an agenda. It kind of wants to play for its whole life. And it's important for the third line to find things where there is a true wholeheartedness that can lead to a commitment. That's the most important for the third line, to feel like, oh, this is like igniting my passion. This is really what I love to do. This is a full yes. That's when the third line can really continue to kind of have energy for whatever it is. And it can actually be beautiful in that sense, in the commitment. And it's always going to feel good to come to third line. And you're going to be like, whatever has happened to you, you can speak to them and they are going to tell you, I've been there. Don't worry. I understand you. They can be very understanding in that way, in the higher expression. So today we're going to look at some charts that people have posted that are 3 sixes. So they have this unique combination of like their personality. They are here to grow into role model. And it's going to be probably when there are children, we're going to feel like that there is a wisdom, like there is something there under the trial and error. You can still feel that quality in the sixth line, but it's not going to really start to have that quality of a role model or an example until after 30. And even more after 50. And then the soul here is the third line. So it's almost, it's interesting to have a soul that is always in trial and error. It feels like it would be easier to have the other way around, like a person who kind of is in trial and error. And then the soul is more wise, and it's like in a sixth line. And maybe this is the most difficult profile in some sense. This is the last one of the 12. So it's kind of coming back to the beginning, where you're going to start over with the 1-3. And probably I would say a key word for this profile is surrender. Because when you have a soul that kind of wants you to be in that experimentation, it's like the personality that wants to be perfect just has to surrender to the soul. Like the soul is really what is stable. The soul is on the side of Human Design and Gene Key that we say are containing the DNA, the lineage. It's these things that are like you can't manipulate that with your mind or like by trying to be something. It's there. It's encoded in you. So for a 6-3, it's going to have to let go of that perfection of the mind and tune into the wisdom of the body and know that failure doesn't exist. It's all about learning. It's all about living. It's all about playfulness and celebration. That's what the 6-3 is really coming into on their journey. And last thing, when it comes to statistics, the 6-3 is less than 3% of the population. So it is kind of unusual. So what we are going to do now is that we're going to go into the charts and we're going to speak in those specific charts about the 6-3, and depending on how the chart looks in other places. And you're going to be able to see the difference between two different charts. And also you're going to get a sense of when I go into the chart, like how much uniqueness that there is in there. Even if the profile is super important and a big part of our chart, there is so much more. So let's see if I can change. Here we go. So here we have a beautiful chart, and I think it's Daniel Holman's art in the background. I'm just going to make sure that you can see when I point on my screen. Yeah, that seems good. So here we have a person who is a 6-3. So we have the 0.6 in the life's work, the 0.6 in the evolution. And then in the other green keys, we have the 0.3 and the 0.3. So this is how you know that this is a 6-3. And I'm just going to show you in Human Design as well. It's very small for you. Let's see if I can make it bigger. So here you're going to see Sun and Earth, which are the planet symbols, 0.6 and 0.3. So that's how you know what you are. It's going to say, if you look at your Human Design, it's going to say 6-3, right? But if you have for example, your gene keys, you can just look at what's after the dot in those outer spheres. So let's see here. Now my computer is thinking. So here we have a 6-3 that is a generator, and that is an emotion generator. So here we know that this person who has this profile that we have spoken about is going to always have energy that it kind of puts out in the world and that is regenerating. So it's very important for this 6-3 to use the energy wisely. And it's an emotional authority. So it's going to be here to feel a lot and to have like the spice of emotions in their life. It's important, I would say, very important, knowing it is a 6-3, that emotional, that emotional wave that this person is going to have. You can see it says inner authority, emotional solar plexus on the chart. It's important to allow the emotions to be there, but to not make decisions on it. Because already we know that this person for 30 years is 3-3. It's a lot of trial and error. So we want to make sure that it's not going to add to the turbulence while making decisions when it's very happy or very sad. That is super important. We can also see that there is a split. It's like the 3 centers on the bottom that are the red center and the two brown centers. They are by themselves. And then you have like a cluster higher up with the yellow center, throat center, and the ajna. So here we have kind of 2 parts, and it's so important for this person. Since it's a generator, the generator is ruled by that red square, that's where the energy comes from. It's all about using your life force right. It's all about being grounded in your root chakra. It's all about living your emotions, accepting and surrendering to them, but not making decisions on them. Waiting until you feel calm inside, then you make decisions. This is your authority. So that has to work first. It's very important that this happens first, and then after that, you can see the throat center that has all these activations in it that that cannot work correctly until you have accepted that you are a generator, that you need to accept and live with that emotional authority, and you need to be grounded. Otherwise, the beauty of your throat with all these activations are not going to be expressed in a way that is going to add to your life and have you use your energy right. So first and foremost, use your life force right. Then I think you can be a spokesperson for anything. And there is something beautiful about what you're going to devote your life to. And I'm not going to do a lot more here. I'm going to go back to this one because here is the devotion that I was speaking about. So you can see here that you have a person that is grounded in devotion, that is grounded in a movement, in a playfulness, in a wholeheartedness of that play of life, of that saying yes to the experience and being in it fully. And that says 99% commitment is not true commitment. I'm only going to say yes to the things that really I'm going to be able to say yes to completely. That is the grounding. That's the third line. The third line, when you have it here, it's about interaction and experience and movement. That's the body. That's the soul. And I feel like even here, there can be kind of this thing what we're saying between the mind that wants perfection and the body that is so much more intelligent. The body has a 30, which is about fire. So it's the two trigrams in the I Ching that make up this hexagram are fire over fire. So there's a lot of fire. And then here in the 29, it's all about the elements of water. So you have a beautiful alchemy of your body that is here to show its wisdom to you. And that leads us into you having the divine feminine as your vocation, that having a listening that is always hearing. I feel like it's always hearing if there's freedom or if there isn't freedom. And you are here to provoke. You're here to make sure that freedom exists and that the feminine principle is kind of, we are healing and allowing the feminine principle to speak. And it's also, again, in your IQ, important that you don't go up into the 6th line and become too mental, become too objective. Your life is a lot about the alchemy, a lot about the yin, a lot about the listening, not so much about the doing and about the thinking. And in your everyday life, you have like style or unique style and working in small groups. So in your everyday life, the way that you express your devotion, the way that you express this femininity is in small groups of 3 to 15 people. And it's going to be your spontaneous, unique expression. You have the same thing here in your life's work. The 23 is about spontaneous, unique expression. It's the throat center. The 8 is the same. So that's the way that your genius comes out in the world. It's very spontaneous. And I would say the biggest trap here is perfection and the mind. And when that is overcome, you are going to be that example for the world. So this is like a very fast, a very kind of overview, but it says a lot about this person already. Like it feels like we know her a little bit. So now we're going to go, and this was Maya. So now we're going to go back to Sami. And here I'm actually showing you another kind of human design. There are many different places. It's my body graph, genetic matrix. There are different places, the 64 keys, where you can make your free human design chart. The same thing with the gene keys. The one I first showed is on the Gene Key website, and it's free. So you can make your charts. You only need your birth information. So here we see suddenly a chart that is not a generator. It doesn't have this red square in the middle. It really only has 2 centers that are filled in. So here we have a 6-3 that already have a lot of turbulence, right? Especially in the beginning of the life, that also have all these open centers. And the open centers, the white centers, is where energy comes into you. And you are going to feel everything that is in your environment, everybody is around you, their emotions, their thoughts, their whatever, like everything you're going to feel it in those open centers. And your life as a 6-3 is going to be a lot about that discernment. What's mine, what's not mine. The not self theme of the open head is Are you thinking your own thoughts? Are you responding to your own questions or other people's questions? The open Ajna is like, are you pretending to be certain? Then basically with that open Ajna, you are just here to have all these different ideas and thoughts, and you're not supposed to like become fixed on anything. The open throat center is about being pressured to say what other people want you to say, and to have to maybe seek approval again, like we were saying, that combined with that third line that you have in your personality, that you have in your profile, that's going to could be you just saying what you're pressured to say, to kind of not have to deal with things. And then the open G, it's about it's about identity, direction, and love. So here you have an openness there. You could have other people interfere with that. Here you have the ego center, and this is about self-worth. So here you could like overpromise or feel like you're not valued enough. Here you have the splenic center, and this is about the immune system. It's about intuition. It's about knowing what's good and what's not good for you. So here you could hold on to things that are not good for you and not really understand how much they are actually not good for you. And here with the open sacral, it's about you're taking in other people's life force, other people's like sexual vibes, all the time. And you can kind of, it can be beautiful in one way, because you can kind of really feel their energy and almost kind of use their fuel to have energy. But then when you're alone at night, again, you're going maybe to feel exhausted, and you don't realize that you're running on somebody else's energy. So all the open centers are kind of risks. And when you are a 6-3 and you have these first 30 years of trial and error, I think that can be intense. You are a projector, so you are here to guide. And that's what I can see you do really in the last parts, in the 2-second periods of your life. Because you're not here to work as a generator, like the first person that has all the energy in the sacral center. You're here to guide. And there is something interesting that is very mutative in how this come across, because it has the 6-3 profile, the last of all of them. What comes after, maybe it goes back, but there is something very, very interesting with that being the last. There's something else coming after. And then the 1949 is the mutation in the emotional center that we are going through, that has to do with merging, you could say, the third chakra with the fourth chakra. So having the lower chakras about me, kind of merging with the heart chakra and the transpersonal and the we. So I feel like part of what your life is about is the understanding. It's the understanding of what does it mean to kind of close that split, to not have our emotions and our solar plexus kind of go in another direction than what your true heart, your true identity, and your true direction goes. So that's part of what I could see from just looking at this only channel that you have. And this is mutating now, like one of the first are mutating in 2027. So you are going to feel, I think, a lot of instability, or a lot of the instabilities out there. And maybe you have some problems with like sensitivity and reactions to different things. And there is something too with the 18 that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So you're going to be really good at discerning what needs correcting, because with all this openness, with having the overview of the 6th line, with having the playfulness and the trial and error of the 3rd line, you are going to just be able to see everything that's wrong. And you are going to be able to point it out. And that's where I feel like you need to be a little bit careful, because you are a futuristic being. You also have the very, very last line in the whole I Ching, in the whole gene keys, the 64, which is the last one, and the 6th line, which is the last line. So you are somehow before your time. You're a being of the future. And with seeing everything that's wrong, and kind of having also the possibility to react, I think you could be a little bit intense for people, because you kind of see what works and what doesn't work. And then if you impose that, I think some people wouldn't be ready yet. So it would be interesting to hear from you if that's part of what you have lived. And I would say it's so important for you that you don't forget why you're here. Because if you just go into kind of like in a way that is the people are resisting saying what's wrong, I think that you could forget why you're here, and because you need other people. Remember, the sixth line need other people to looks in the same direction, that sees your vision. So if you are going to share this with people that can't see your vision, you're going to be depressed. So it's more about your own journey, tuning into this sensitivity in a beautiful way that you have, so that you can remember why you came here, so that you can have your true revelations. And then as a role model, it's not by pointing anything out to others, but it's really about living your life from your truth. People are going to start to be like, wow, he's remembering something, he knows something that we don't know, and they're going to start to ask you, they're going to start to want to know. And then it's invited. And for a projector, when you're invited to share your truth, it's going to be so much more powerful. I also want to go in to look, and this is not, the photo is not so good, but I really want to go in a little bit and show you the same thing. So here we have the 0.6, the 0.6, the 0.3, the 0.3. So this is a 6-3 profile. This is the way we see it in the gene keys. And I see that you are born in, my dad is from also Andalusia in Spain, and I could see in your Pluto that you were born in 81 or 82. So right a year before me. So we have some of the outer planets, the 32, for example, that we have been in right now. The sun has been in the 32. It's been a lot about understanding what's worth preserving and what do we have to cut off. Like, what is the weed that doesn't work anymore? So we have that thing in common. And I think that is important for you. I mean, for me, I feel like more than to point out what's wrong, it's about you walking your life in integrity and you asking questions. If you go to whoever or whatever organization and say, this is wrong, this doesn't work, you are probably going to be, you have this activation that has to do with the genius or the freak. They're going to be deaf. Either they're going to say you're a freak, or they're going to be deaf at what you say, or they're going to say that you're kind of prideful, or you think you know best. So I would say you having the gift of inquiry that leads to truth, the best way you can do it is to ask questions. And then they can actually understand by themselves, by their own answers, what is going on. And I would say we need some gentleness in your life. There are a lot of things, there's a lot of power, and there's also big sensitivity. So I would say that gentleness with yourself is important. You are a kind of light warrior. You are a being of the future. I keep saying it because it's so really evident in your chart. And even here, it's like on the earthly plane, you are going to see it as a limitation. You are going to see this planet sometimes, I think, if somewhere you can't really plant your seeds, and it's going to be a little bit tough for you. But it's about finding the purpose. Although this is how you haven't come to the wrong planet, you just have to wait a little bit before you can bloom. And I mean, now you're after you're 30, so I think you have started to discern, where do you have the people that see in the same direction as you? Where do you have the people that have a similar imagination as you have? And you have learned to have grace even when you see that something is not working the way it's supposed to work. And you don't need to convince everybody that are not ready to hear. Instead, you can find your allies that are also imagining the future with you, that are asking the right questions. And then suddenly, instead of being somebody that people think is like prideful or stubborn, it's that you come into your true artfulness, and you come into your playfulness, you come into synergy with others, because you're not putting yourself over. You're not becoming the judge, for example, that we were saying. You're not disincarnating saying, oh, I'm in the wrong planet, I'm not going to struggle here, I'm just going to sit here and point out everything that's wrong. No, that's not what you're here to do. You're here to play. You're here to gather the people that are in synergy with you. You are here to be in your artfulness, in your playfulness. And that's when you're becoming a role model for this true integrity. That's powerful. You're here to speak about your love, like what you love. You're here to speak about what worked for you, what didn't work for you. And then people are going to feel this. They're going to feel that you are somebody who's been through so much and somebody that they can trust. And that's really the best way for you to kind of change the things around if you don't feel understood in life. And if you feel like the world is not ready for your wisdom or your corrections. So Maya and Sami, I would love to hear if this resonates, because then other people who watch can kind of understand more that this is actually something that I'm reading in the activations. It's not something that I'm just coming up with, although there is some intuitive threading. And I think also that by doing two different, a woman and a man, and two different kinds of 6-3 profiles, you understand that there's so much more, but everything is kind of lived through this. Actually, let me stop share screening. So that there are differences, right? Well, actually there are comments too. So maybe I'll go through some comments. So both these people have different unique charts with, like, there are 64 keys, there are 6 lines in each keys, there are like 384 different ways that you can live out in each of these activations. But still, as a 6-3, you are going to have a similar life path. You're going to have these 3 phases. You're going to have your soul that is here to be in movement. That is not here to give up and compromise or kind of like become outside the body. So it's really the profile is really that kind of lens that your life works through. And even more you're going to see in the other profiles, like how we thread those numbers. So the 6 and the 3 are going to come back in many of the other profiles, but in a different constellation. So I'm going to post in inside the CLN in the Unlock Your Genius group. I will post so that you can add your charts there if you want to have a free reading. I'm going to put it probably on Facebook as well so that you can post it there. These ones were taken from the Gene Keys and Human Design group that we have. So that's going to continue to be a place where you can post your charts. And I'm going to actually go to the what is it called? The comments after, because I see that I've already been on for more than half an hour, and those Monday lives are kind of more 10-15 minute snippets. But I just really felt to kind of introduce this to you today, and I'm really looking forward to the journey through all the 12 profiles, and to have you guys also comment on the ones that you are, to come in and kind of share, because I'm a 4-6, so that's kind of what I know from my own experience. So this is really, really valuable to have you guys comment. And next time I'll see if I can also have, oh, Maya's even on here. Oh my God, that's so cool. Yeah, you see here, so you can read Maya's comments and see how she felt about it. Okay, well, thank you everybody, and I will be back on next Monday. Bye.